Spotlight on Lifestyle.
Let's go back to where it all started for you. You were born Burton Leon Reynolds Jr. in Waycross, Georgia, in February 1936. Your father, Burt Sr., was the chief of police, and your mother, Fern, was a nurse. When you were very young, your father was away fighting in the war. And in an extraordinary war, his regiment were one of the first to land on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. 70% of his regiment were killed that day.
Yes.
Did he ever talk to you about that?
No, he wouldn't talk about it, but I met men that served with him, served under him, that idolized him. And they told me some extraordinary stories. He took a hill by himself that there were 8 or 9 Germans there shooting at him. He got them all. He was quite a man.
A loving man?
He was, that was a time, you know, an era when men didn't show affection, you know. I would have killed for a hug from him. He lived to be 94, and the last 4 years of his life, we talked about a lot of things like that. And he said some things that I can't even say now without crying. Had he not lived that long, I never would have heard them.
What was the general gist of his explanation?
I didn't know how to say it, but I didn't know how to say it. I knew he wanted to say it, desperately.
What do you think he wanted to say to you that he couldn't?
I think he wanted to say how proud he was of me.
Did he ever tell you that he loved you?
Yes.
Towards the end of his life?
Yes, the very end.
That must have meant a huge deal to you.
It was everything.
He only ever hit you once.
Yes.
You were 16 and you were cussing your mother.
Well, I sassed her. I wouldn't say cussing.
What's sassing?
I said, oh, yeah? That was it. Just, oh, yeah, and then whap.
But it was a proper punch boom.
Oh, I went down.
Your mother thought that he killed you.
Well, he dragged me into the closet and closed the door. And I heard her say, my God, Burt, you've killed him. And he said, no, he's just sleeping.
Tell me about your mother. What kind of woman was she?
Strong, strong woman. She had 7 brothers, 1 sister. She was a great mother. And I couldn't have asked for a better mother.
They were married 65 years.
Yes.
An incredible marriage.
I never heard them. Of course, I guess they didn't argue loud then. But I never heard them.
Do you wish you'd had that in your life?
Of course. Had I been smarter, you know, with one lady, I still would be together with her.
Who's the lady?
Sally.
Sally Field.
Yes.
That could have been, you think, the one for you. If things
Without
had
a
been
doubt.
And I want to just go back to the start of your womanizing. You were 15 years old. You lost your virginity to a woman in her mid-40s. Is it all flooding back to you, Burt?
Yes, rather nicely.
How did you meet this femme fatale?
Well, in Palm Beach, there's a big pier. And I used to dive off the end of the pier showing off. I was just a kid. And I saw this very attractive, I thought, old woman watching me. And of course, that made me even swan dive even more. And she asked if I'd like to have lunch. I thought that meant at the restaurant, you know. But,
Where did it mean?
It mean at her house.
And what would go on over lunch?
Well, I got to eat faster and faster.
Let's find out how Burt the superstar was born. Burt Reynolds was born in 1936, the only son of Burt Sr. and Fern. He spent an idyllic childhood in rural Florida.
Back in the 50s, it was a beautiful time to grow up here. And we did skip school on occasion, and we'd go out there on the weekends and have fun. You didn't get in bad trouble. You just got in a lot of little troubles, and just enough to probably nag his daddy.
Burt had to be careful not to stray too far from respectability because his police chief dad was not someone to mess with.
His father was a big disciplinarian of him growing up and everything, and his father was a cop, you know, so. But he's a remarkable guy.
Any over-exuberance from young Burt was soon channeled into American football, where he made his name as a tough guy. It impressed the boys, and the girls took notice too.
The biggest hero in the school. He and his girlfriend come out as Mr. and Mrs. Palm Beach High School or whatever it was.
Burt's hopes of turning professional, though, were dashed by a knee injury and then a serious car accident. Unable to play football, he signed up for a drama class with a charismatic teacher, Watson Duncan, who cast him in a play.
He said, "You got the part." Really? And he started to look around both sides of the stage, and he said, "I guess I found a second home."
Burt went on to win the Florida State Drama Competition, which led to a theatre internship in New York. Now the college football jock was mixing with the great and good of New York's art scene.
He meets Joanne Woodward, who helps him get an agent. So suddenly, just by having a football injury, he's got Paul Newman's wife getting him an agent. And he's off.
And he was off to Hollywood, where they didn't want theatre actors so much as action heroes.
If there was something to do where you might do damage to life and limb, he wanted to do it.
Burt's dark looks meant he could also corner the market in spaghetti westerns and Native American roles.
He was the new look after all those sort of rather coiffed, well-dressed Hollywood stars.
He's like a young Brando. No one had seen anything like it since Marlon Brando.
Over the next decade, the boy from a Florida backwater went from low-budget movies to international blockbusters.
Smoking the Bandit, 1977, made $100 million.
Bye-bye, baby.
Hit after hit. 5 years, huge box office success.
With box office records came a salary to match. On Cannonball Run, he earned $1 million a week, and by 1981, Burt was the highest-earning star in the world.
Burt was one of the first to live that real lush Hollywood life. He was an emperor.
Burt spent like an emperor too, buying as many as 6 lavish houses, a ranch, and a fleet of aircraft in matching livery.
He had every toy known to man. Beautiful women, speedboats, private jets.
But there's a downside to Burt's new lifestyle.
To deal with all the demands on your time, you hire assistants, whose job, in part, is to shield you from reality.
You start spending money in a ridiculous manner. You start becoming separate from your base. When you know anything's possible, it's a dangerous world.
Is that a true picture? Is that a fair assessment of what happens when you hit that kind of dizzy height?
Yes, I suppose it is. I'm not in the poorhouse.
Have you ever worked out how much you spent?
I have no idea how much. Let me just tell you all, I had a hell of a good time.
There was a great quote you said about you and Clint Eastwood, your good friend. You said, we hyperventilated for the first couple of years when we started making a lot of money.
Yeah, we did.
There's that feeling of, I better fall down on this horse before they tap me on the back and say, you don't deserve this.
He's a very, very close friend of mine. And this is a true story. We were both fired on the same day at Universal Studios. And they told Clint, you know, your Adam's apple sticks out too far, and you won't get that tooth fixed, that chipped tooth, and you talk too slow. And I said, why are you firing me? And they said, you can't act. And so the two of us were walking towards his truck, and I said, you know, Clint, you're in a hell of a lot of trouble. And he said, why? And I said, I can learn to act. You'll never get rid of that Adam's apple.
The pills you were taking, Percodan, Valium, Compazine, Didirex, Vicodin, Prozac.
That was my evening cocktail.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Piers Morgan's Life Stories.